is Matt O'Malley. I am the City Councilor representing District 6, as well as the Chair of the Committee on Healthy Women, Families, and Communities. We are here today to discuss a number of dockets, 7 as a matter of fact, 7 different dockets. They are docket 1267, 1268, 1269, 1270, 1271, 1272, and 1373. Is that correct? Ah, okay. I thought I had a little typo, but no. This is like the SAT sequence question, and I was nearly stumped. Joined by 3 wonderful civic leaders and wonderful advocates. Commissioner of the Age Strong Commission, Emily Shea. Francis Thomas, Deputy Commissioner of the Age Strong Committee, Deputy Commissioner of Administration and Finance, and Neil Doherty from the Mayor's Office of Intergovernmental Relations. Welcome, lady and gentlemen. We will get right to it. Before we do, though, I have to announce that this is a publicly televised and streamed hearing. Any folks who wish to testify may do so if they sign up at the back left of the chamber and fill out their affiliation and residence. We ask all members of the public who wish to testify to limit their comments to a few minutes to ensure that all comments and concerns can be heard. We will also accept written testimony by mail or email through thecityofboston.gov. And we will jump right into it with docket 1267, which is message and order authorizing the City of Boston to accept and expend the amount of $1,808,230 in the form of a grant for the fiscal year 20 Title 3C Nutrition, awarded by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, passed through the Mass Executive Office of Elder Affairs, and will be administered by the Age Strong Commission. Commissioner or Deputy Commissioner, do you want to start with 1267?
Sure. So as the Area Agency on Aging for Boston, the Older Americans Act funds come from the federal government to the state and down to us. And we administer those funds, and we distribute those funds to various community agencies through an RFP process. So this one is Title 3C Nutrition. It is a big funding source for our home-delivered meals and congregate meal programs. So you've probably heard of the cafes or dining sites across the city. We have 46 of those, and we deliver home-delivered meals to thousands of older adults throughout Boston. So we do this, as I said, by issuing an RFP. So we have 2 vendors that are working with us on this program, Ethos and the Chinese Golden Age Center. And they are running the 46 congregate sites around the city where older adults can come and get a free meal thank you, Julian, for a suggested donation of $2. And they also are working with other contractors to get home-delivered meals out to people across the city who are too frail to get into the congregate sites. So we want to make sure that everyone has food to eat.
That's great. So you said, 46 congregate sites currently?
46.
46.
Potentially 47.
And I know it varies depending on weather, depending on schedules, but typically how many people per week take advantage of the congregate sites, would you say?
You know what, I don't have those numbers for you today, Councillor, but we can get those.
Really more curious than anything else. These are so wonderful and so important, not only for the health and nutrition of older Bostonians, but also the socialization. That's one thing that I don't know the Chinese Golden Age Center as well, simply because it's outside of my district, but I've worked very closely with Ethos, know what their community cafes look like, know that they're always culturally competent. Dale Mitchell, who just retired, was particularly a pioneer in creating LGBT community cafes, and so many older Bostonians may recloset themselves as they get older. So I think this is wonderful. 46, 47 sites. The $2 donation, I assume, is that's not enough to make the program sufficient. It's just more enough to What's the reason for that?
So it's part of the federal guidelines.
I see. Okay. That's great. And,
But we always tell people if they don't have that money, they should still.
yeah, no,
Still
that's
come.
great. That's important, and that's wonderful.
Yeah.
And will this $1.8 million fund it for a year, or is this?
So this is actually a preliminary allocation. So what we've received for our Older Americans Act funding is preliminary allocations based on the money that the state got from the federal government from last year. And so we expect this number to potentially change throughout the year, and we will be back if it goes up.
Good.
It'd be great if it goes up.
I feel like
but-
we've actually met on this grant before, or am I just
yeah, so
been in
this
this
is-
position so long that I'm
No, this is
getting
something
reruns.
that, all of these grants are ones that have come to us for many years because
Correct.
of our designation as the AAA.
Terrific.
And so these are not grants that we apply for. They're grants that, where money flows to us.
That's
so
great.
we're
And in addition to the community cafes, this will also help subsidize some of the cost of Meals on Wheels for folks that can't get out?
Exactly. So, so home delivered meals for people. So that's a nice warm meal coming to somebody who needs it. And oftentimes, those Meals on Wheels drivers are might be the only time that folks are seeing someone during the day.
Yeah.
And so that program is great because it provides a nutritious meal with 1/3 of the recommended daily allowance, but it also provides that person-to-person connection and allows us to do a kind of a visual check on
Yeah.
people.
I've helped deliver Meals on Wheels a number of times, and I'd encourage everyone to do it. It's a wonderful opportunity to meet with neighbors and just spend even a couple moments talking about the Red Sox or the weather or stuff.
Yeah, it's nice.
get
It's
lot
a
out
good
of it.
program.
That's great. All right, well, that is all I have on docket 1267. Obviously, we'll be urging my colleagues to support and pass that on Wednesday.
Great.
Next, we have docket 1268, message and order authorizing the City of Boston to accept and expend the amount of $1,019,659.68 in the form of a grant for the FY20 State Elder Lunch Program awarded by the Mass Executive Office of Elder Affairs to be administered by the Age Strong Commission. Can you talk a little bit about 1268, Commish?
Sure. So this is the money that comes from the state. There's 3 parts of the funding for the nutrition program, and this is the part that comes through the state. This is we've been issued a contract for 70% of our funds for the year, so we will be definitely back on this one.
Correct.
When we get additional dollars in. But this is just another important component to making sure that we can provide meals for everybody that needs them, and we definitely appreciate the state's support on this line item.
So, and this will fund the congregate sites and Meals on Wheels as well?
Exactly, yep. So there's 3 pieces of funding, 2 from the federal government and 1 from the state that comes together to form the funding for nutrition.
Okay, so this is adding 1267, 1268, it looks to be about $3 million, little less than that. And then what's the third component? How much is that?
It's about 350,000.
Okay, so it's
Yeah,
still-
and we
still
expect to be
great.
getting a little bit more of that this year because of some increased investment the state made. So.
Great, terrific. Okay, well, obviously we'll be
But we
supporting
don't.
that
I don't
as
think
well.
we don't have a contract for that yet.
Yes,
Gotcha.
It's on this list.
So
Okay,
it's not here.
thank you. 1269 is message and order authorizing the City of Boston to accept and expend in the amount of $966,932 in the form of a grant for the FY20 Title 3B Supportive Services awarded by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services passed through the Mass Executive Office of Elder Affairs to be administered by the Age Strong Commission. You're up.
So, so again, this is a preliminary allocation, so we will be back on this one, I believe. This is our most flexible category of funds from the federal government, so it allows us to look at the needs of older adults in Boston. We do a needs assessment as part of this program and an area plan, and it allows us to fund programs that we think best meet those gaps and meet those needs for older adults. And so we have to stay within certain categories that the federal government lays out, but again, out of all of the Title III, this is the most flexible. So with this money, we fund a lot of programming for older adults throughout the city. So kind of different things to do, exercise classes, people to come in and speak, that are run by community-based organizations. We also use a large percentage of this funding actually goes towards legal services for older adults. And so that's for everybody across the state, that's kind of a mandatory category out of Title IIIB. And then the rest is based on community needs. But we certainly there's a lot of need for legal services for older adults. We fund Greater Boston Legal Services to work with older adults who are struggling with a whole range of different things. We also fund things like housing search and assistance. We fund some senior home repair. We fund some healthy aging programs. I'm just looking down the list here. We fund a lot of different things. We fund some groups within BHA buildings to help bring people out of their homes and connect together. So Little Brothers Friends of the Elderly is running that. We fund friendly visiting. We try to fund services for a whole range of people within this category. So we look for services that can serve special populations, like people who are blind through MAB, people who are deaf through Deaf Inc., our Latino seniors through IBA and La Alianza, Chinese Golden Age. So the money is kind of spread and trying to meet needs of the community.
Gotcha. So it's most flexible. You've got some discretionary, and my question is, what types of programs will this allocation fund? And just off the top of your head, you probably listened to a dozen or so, just to show that it could be anything from helping with health, helping with food,
Right.
helping with socialization, helping with translation, helping with legal services. So this is great.
It sounds like you know our categories.
I think I do.
I think those are all the federal words they use.
Excellent. Fantastic. Well, obviously, it goes without saying, we will urge our colleagues and expect to pass Docket 1269 as well on Wednesday. So thank you. Docket 1270, message in order authorizing the City of Boston to accept and expend the amount of $491,000 in the form of a grant for the FY20 Title IIIE caregiver awarded by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, passed through the Mass Executive Office of Elder Affairs, to be administered by the Age Strong Commission. You're
Yes.
up.
So
I think this is
these
your
are
last
our
one.
caregiver funds, which we're very grateful for. We fund 2 different programs with our caregiver money, and both programs cover the entire city. So the first program that we fund is a family caregiver program, where if you are caring for someone over 60, you can get some support with that. And so so the program provides things like one-on-one counseling for the caregiver, trainings, group workshops to reduce stress and help maintain people's ability to be a caregiver, connection to information and resources, respite care, and that program is run by Boston Senior Home Care. The second program that we fund through this money supports grandparents over 60 who are raising grandchildren, and we fund MSPCC to run that program. It's called the Connections Program, and they do a lot of things, including support groups throughout the community, a lot of connection to resources, legal services, legislative advocacy, health and wellness. So they have a whole scope of services they provide for grandparents raising grandchildren.
Great. Do we know how many grandparents would fall in this category?
In
For raising-
Boston,
Yeah,
I don't have those numbers off the top of my head.
yeah. But it seems, at least anecdotally, to be growing. I spend a fair amount of time in my schools in my district, and the number of grandparents who will show up not only to support in addition to the parents, but as the primary caregivers of their grandkids, seems to be growing.
I would agree with that, especially with the opioid crisis and some other issues
Yeah.
that are out there. We definitely see that population growing in Boston, so it's important that we are able to provide funds for that. And
And
we're allowed to give up to 10% of this line item for grandparents raising grandchildren. So local area agencies on aging have the option of providing that service or not.
Well, that doesn't seem like that much if it's only 10%.
Yeah, so we give the full 10% here in Boston, and there's a reauthorization of the Older Americans Act right now going through Congress, and in the House version, they're either increasing or making more
Yeah.
flexible that 10%.
And I don't want to, deny the fact that we need to, as a government, allow for and facilitate grants for caregivers for seniors. Obviously, that's a huge issue, but I think maybe it's important. I know you feel strongly, Commissioner, of making sure we do have those resources because it does seem to be a growing population. Do you offer, this is somewhat off topic, but since I have you all here, do we facilitate any peer support groups for grandparents raising grandchildren? I would think that could be a great service to offer.
Yeah, so through this program, MSPCC is facilitating a number of support groups across the city. I think they have 4 going right now.
Great, that's wonderful.
So yeah, and I think they're fabulous because you really have the opportunity to understand what resources people are using, get guidance on how to navigate things like the school system or working with doctors' offices. So
or social media. We were talking about
Social media.
sort of
Exactly.
smartphones now. Grandparents should be able to be equipped. And as we have this hearing, your department is hosting sort of a technological briefing for folks. So I think there's a lot of work there that we could be helping to do.
Yes.
Thank you for that. That's great. We'll be supporting that. And then 1271 is the message and order authorizing the City of Boston to accept and expend the amount of $400,694 in the form of a grant for the FY 2020 Title IIIA Area Plan Administration awarded by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, passed through the Mass Executive Office of Elder Affairs, to be administered by the Age Strong Commission.
Yes, so this is our admin money, which
Right.
is very important. So being a good steward of these dollars, we have certain things we have to do as a funder, and this money helps us to do that. So we have a team of program folks that work on these grants that work with all of our grantees on their programs. They do site visits. They make sure that everything is going well, and they're there to support grantees when they need assistance from us. We also have a team of fiscal folks that work on this program under Francis, and these are cost reimbursement grants that we give out, so it's important that we can kind of vouch for all of the expenses that people make with this money, so that we can then pass our own audit. So we make sure that people are spending the money well and wisely and within the federal guidelines, and then we're able to issue them checks for the amount that they spent.
That is great. Okay, I don't have any further questions on 1271. Finally, for Age Strong, at docket 1272 is message and order authorizing the City of Boston to accept and expend the amount of $171,242 in the form of a grant FFY 20 Title III Ombudsman awarded by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, passed through the Mass Executive Office of Elder Affairs, to be administered by the Age Strong Commission.
Yes. So the Ombudsman program is a program, it's a nursing home ombudsman program. So our grantee for this program is Ethos, You have to be kind of a certified ombudsman provider to run this program, and they are. So they recruit and train and supervise a group of volunteers who then spend time in nursing homes, and they're able to help to solve problems that residents are having, and kind of be a buffer between the nursing home administration and the residents. So they're able to help to mediate and just support residents so that they can live well in our nursing homes in Boston.
So it seems to me that there's a number of these grants are passed through the federal government to the state government to us and then to a partner, and Ethos is one of the larger sort of players in this thing. Do you have and I don't know if it's you, Deputy Commissioner, a point person who sort of oversees these grants just to make sure they're being used the right way?
Yes, so that's back to the admin dollars I was just talking about. First of all, Francis, our Deputy Commissioner for Finance, oversees the finance piece. Melissa Carlson, our Deputy Commissioner for Programs and Partnerships, she oversees the programmatic piece, but we have teams of people on the finance and the program side that work together to support and monitor grantees in the field, make sure that we're all doing the best work possible. We also have, for the nutrition program, we have a full-time nutrition director who works with both Ethos and Chinese Golden Age to make sure that we're all aligned and working towards a good outcome.
That's great. That's great. And how many, do you know how many volunteers Ethos oversees, sort of manages for this particular grant in the nursing homes?
I don't.
Yeah, it's a great thing, and we've got, you know, a number of nursing homes in my district, and I try to visit and try to be supportive. Sometimes there can be a bit of a conflict with the nursing homes in the area, residential neighborhood, less so, and not at all about some of the older folks, but you've got younger folks now in nursing homes dealing with sort of health issues that weren't, I think, on the radar screen when the nursing home model first began. So that's just another layer here. So appreciate that and the great work of Ethos. And the new executive director of Ethos was my first policy director, Valerie Frias. So I'm very proud.
She worked for you.
Yeah, my first team, and we were in 9 years ago. Very proud of her and her great work. All right, that is all, Commissioner, Deputy Commissioner. I have said to you privately, and I will say again publicly, how much of a fan I am of your new public awareness campaign. You've seen some great posters around with some of our incredible Bostonians. Vinnie Marino might be my favorite because I've known Vinnie for years, and Vinnie is 82 and could take out any of us. He's an amazing guy. and the tag on is frail. You know, I'm a lot of things, but frail ain't one. Or he's great. So I love that, and I really appreciate the leadership that you brought in. And Mayor Walsh has really helped strengthen something as simple as changing the name of the Elderly Commission to the Age Strong Commission, or Age Strong Boston. I think really shows how committed you are and your team is to making sure that Boston is a great place for all residents, and we are not simply going to provide services, passive services to folks. We want to make sure that people are engaged and healthy and have fun at the same time, and there's no age limit on that. So well done, and to your entire team for a great job. Look forward to passing all of your dockets on Wednesday.
Thank you, Councilor.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor.
And our final docket this morning is docket 1373, message and order authorizing the City of Boston to accept and expend the amount not to exceed $150,000 in the form of a grant for Can Share FY 2020 awarded by the donor group to be administered by the Office of Food Access. Delighted that my dear friend and a great Bostonian from the Intergovernmental Relations Department, Neil Doherty, is going to testify on behalf of docket 1373. Mr. Doherty, welcome.
Thank you, Councillor. Thank you, Chairman O'Malley. So docket 1373 is an accept and expend for the funds that we all raise through the Can Share program, which is a fundraiser we do yearly, and it has started already, but is ongoing through January 31st of 2020. I'm sure if you walk around the building, you'll see a lot of offices have, jars open and little fundraisers going on that really make this this program shine. Those dollars are used to support SNAP beneficiaries throughout the city by doubling their buying power at Boston's farmers markets and other participating stores throughout, as long as they provide fresh foods and access to those. So I am here today. I would be remiss if I didn't mention that Catalina Lopez Ospina, who's the Director of Food Access, couldn't make it today, but she is an incredible steward of these funds and really runs a great office up there doing excellent work. So this is an annual thing, and we hope to see it passed on Wednesday.
Great, absolutely. So is this so it's not to exceed $150,000. So this is a preemptive passage of how much money we'll raise?
Exactly. So the 150 is a benchmark we expect probably not to get over.
Yeah. Do you know what we raised last year?
I can get that to you. I don't know.
Just more curious out of anything else. But so this is actually interesting. So just so folks who are watching, which is probably my mother, maybe your mother is watching as
Excellent,
well.
Yeah.
So there are every department does fundraisers for CanShare, and all that money will be collected. It's raffles. It could be baskets. It could be Bruins tickets.
Yep.
All that money that's collected then will be sort of funneled to this to the
Treasury Department.
Treasury,
Yep.
and then it'll make its way down to the Office of Food Access and
Exactly.
be able to support the SNAP program at farmers markets, which is a wonderful thing. One thing that we push for. Farmers markets are great. We further make it difficult often for low-income people to have access to fresh vegetables and fruits before until we were able to implement that. And is it true that every farmers market in Boston has to accept SNAP dollars or EBT?
I believe it is, yes.
Great, that's great. And Neil, what is the best CanShare raffle in the building?
I've seen a few. I know there's, I'm not sure of the department, but it's one of those, it is a Bruins event,
Okay.
and I think it's 4 tickets to a game this year. So I will have to find the department, but once I do, I'll definitely get in on that.
Well, I agreed with everything you said except that last answer. The best CanShare raffle is the District 6 basket of wonderful restaurants and an experience.
Good to
I will
know.
go for a jog around Jamaica Pond with the lucky winner.
Oh, boy.
So I will be putting your name in for that for several chances. This is obviously a no-brainer. This is a great thing. I'm proud to see the city do well. My only hope is that next year we'll be doing this and it'll be a $200,000 figure because we'll be so successful with doing this. So thank you, Neil, and thank you to your colleagues in Food Access for their great work. We will obviously be supporting this on Wednesday. That is all I have for our number of dockets this morning. I don't believe we have any members of the public looking to testify, unless you want to hop in, Jessica. This is probably our last hearing of the calendar year. Thank you, Jessica Mars, who makes me look like I know what I'm talking about by doing some great research. And thank you, Michelle Goldberg, our great committee liaison, who further makes me look like I would know what I'm doing, which I would not without these two great colleagues. Thank you, Neil. Thank you, everybody. The hearing of the Committee on Healthy Women, Families, and Communities is hereby adjourned.